Chapter 53:16. Gu Jingyu? Yiqing Luo's pupils kept constricting as she looked at that familiar face in disbelief. That man's thin lips curled upwards as he gave a warm smile. That smile was like a spring breeze. Yiqing Luo was stunned on the spot. And it was this moment of days. The handsome and refined man's eyes flashed past a trace of ruthless murderous intent. That hand which was shrouded in the black cloak suddenly rose up. Yiqing Luo saw a flash of silvery color. Her body's instinct towards danger and her acute senses had already made the most intuitive evasive move the minute she sensed the danger and murderous intent. But, no matter how swift her reaction was, earlier that moment of days was enough to give the opponent a chance to take action against her. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian's tone was filled with a rare panic. He stood up abruptly as he dashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. He who was seriously injured, how would he be able to make it in time? Yiqing Luo managed to avoid her vital parts, but that sharp blade which was covered with strange black totem had already broken her face. Blood splattered under the candlelight. A burst of piercing pain and bone-piercing cold seemed to seep into her bone marrow. After Yiqing Luo avoided it, she raised her head abruptly as she looked at Gu Jingyu. Her hand swiftly pressed on the wound which had been slashed open, blocking the acupoints on the wound to prevent the poison on the sharp blade from entering deep into her body. This raise of her head made Yiqing Luo's expression turn uglier. She saw Gu Jingyu, licking his lips in disappointment after his strike failed as he raised the sharp blade. The blood that splashed in the air and was about to fall suddenly turned into sparkling blood beads and flew toward Gu Jingyu. About 4 to 5 blood beads which were formed from her blood entered a palm-sized gourd which Gu Jingyu had taken out. He kept the small gourd and hung it on his waist. When he raised his eyes to look at Yiqing Luo, his thin lips curled into a sneer of ridicule. Fengqing Luo, you won't be complacent for long. This seat will eventually refine you to become this seat's strength. After Yiqing Luo sealed the blood on the wound on her face, she speedily flipped over and with a movement of her fingertips, she set off profound waves towards the other party. But after all, the other party's face made Yiqing Luo unable to harden her heart. In front of him, the figure shrouded in darkness instantly turned into a thick black fog and blended into the darkness. Meanwhile, a large number of zombie-like puppets bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws suddenly swarmed in from all directions. It was a corpse puppet. Furthermore, they were a bunch of defective goods. These defective products were clearly not completed. Their bodies reeked of a rancid stench and their flesh was turned over. Almost none of them were in perfect condition. There were at least 100 undead corpse puppets. There were so many of them that it seemed like they wanted to fill up the entire basement. The entire basement was instantly filled with the disgusting stench of decay and the smell of blood. It blocked Yiqing Luo from following the profound yin qi to chase after Gu Jingyu. Let's leave this place first. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate any further as she turned around and helped Zhu Wuxian up, as her fingers which were holding the glower flame fan tightened slightly. If they stayed for a while longer. She and Zhu Wuxian weren't killed by the undead corpse puppets. But they were killed by this bunch of disgusting undead corpse puppets. After taking the medicinal pill, Zhu Wuxian's complexion looked slightly better but his lips were still pale. When Yiqing Luo helped him up and left, most of his body weight was on Yiqing Luo. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:17. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the coldness on Zhu Wuxian's body, as though he had just defrosted out from the ice cellar. His body was really not normal. Hold on tight to me. Yiqing Luo kept the misgivings in her heart as she locked Zhu Wuxian's waist with one hand, as she instructed him in a low voice. After that, she raised her wrist as the raging flame fan opened up. Bam bam bam, the profound rays were like a waterfall as it poured downwards, instantly drowning the entire underground room. The majestic and powerful profound energy swallowed everything in the surroundings. Even the sturdy underground room started to crack as it shook incessantly. Fine stones, one by one, fell downwards, attacking the raging profound wave which formed into a tornado. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's surroundings seemed to be enveloped by a layer of red glow which was wrapped in raging flames, dazzling and piercing. A swoosh sound was heard, followed by a loud rumbling sound. Yiqing Luo brought Zhu Wuxian as she dashed out of the underground room. What entered their eyes was a dense forest which was enveloped in eerie yin qi. The surroundings gave off a rotten and damp smell with a faint stench. When they raised their eyes through the strange-shaped leaves, they could see the dark sky. just as the two of them walked out of the underground room. Behind them, the place where the underground room was located had suddenly exploded. Yiqing Luo turned her head back. He could still vaguely see that the defective undead corpse puppets had been torn apart by the dark force that was like a raging flame. Together with the basement, it had become a ruin. Yiqing Luo only used her perceptive power to sweep one round, and after ascertaining that there were no other living beings in the surroundings, she supported Zhu Wu Xian and left without any hesitation. When she brought Zhu Wu Xian out of the uninhabited mountain, she then understood. Gu Jingyu didn't even have the intention to battle with her, choosing to leave without any hesitation. This was not only because the other party's ability was not as good as her who had completely transformed. The bigger reason was probably because the entire devil region was no longer the same as before. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, forming a patch of darkness. The air was filled with a nauseating smell of blood. Occasionally, lightning flashed across the pitch-black sky. The dark clouds rolled downwards as though a gap had been torn open. And looking over, the devil region, which originally had peculiar buildings, had already been leveled to flat ground. The flames of war continued and smoke rose from all directions. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly recalled the conversation between Huang Wuyo and his men when she was still refining the vessel. Huang Wuyo was telling the truth. Using undead puppets to wage war on the major realms. Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly changed. Oh no. Everyone in the band of brothers remained in the infernal domain. If she started a war, wouldn't her brothers be in even more danger? She had to rush to the demon palace as soon as possible and meet up with everyone. Yiqing Luo was just planning to support Zhu Wu Xian as they headed towards the direction of the devil palace. Suddenly she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen and her face turned pale. She paused for a moment and raised her hand to press on her abdomen. The next moment, she felt an extremely powerful magnetic field surging in her mind, as if some kind of power was returning to her body. On her wrist, the azure dew bracelet that was like a blossoming cherry blossom faintly burned her. Azure dew bracelet, vast water artifact. He was back. The connection between her and the vast water divine artifact was re-established. Yiqing Luo's breathing paused as she hadn't had the time to contact her companions in the pet space. Her abdomen was in intense pain once again. Following that, her entire body's energy seemed to have been sucked out as her vision turned black, as she fell into darkness. Vaguely, she heard Zhu Wu Xian calling out her name anxiously. Yiqing Luo? Yiqing Luo. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:18. When Yiqing Luo woke up once again, she was lying in a slightly dark room and there was a faint sandalwood fragrance which smelled nice. She glanced sideways as she surveyed the surroundings. This was a spacious bedroom and the furnishings displayed the owner's taste. She slowly propped herself up as she tried to circulate her profound jade heart. Warm, profound energy spread through her limbs and bones. Perhaps it was because she didn't have enough rest, so even though she had just woken up, her body still felt a little tired. She rubbed her brows as she recalled what happened before she fainted. At that time, she didn't even have a chance to react. The moment her tummy hurt, she lost consciousness. She lowered her head as she took a look at her flat tummy as she frowned slightly. Could it be? Huang Wuyo had made use of her blood to execute some forbidden art in an attempt to destroy her body? Suddenly, the room door was pushed open as a figure walked in with quick steps. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and saw a cold and noble-looking Zhu Wu Xian dressed in a white long robe walking in front of her. Zhu Wu Xian, are you alright? Yiqing Luo straightened her body as she recalled that Zhu Wu Xian's body was not normal when they were in the basement. Zhu Wu Xian lit up the candle in the room and as the candle flame swayed, it lit up the entire bedroom. He pulled a wooden chair over as he sat by the bedside as his gaze was serene yet complicated as he looked at Yiqing Luo. That gaze made Yiqing Luo frown uncomfortably. Zhu Wu Xian? I'm fine. The man's voice was clear. Yiqing Luo got up and was about to pull Zhu Wu Xian's arm, then check my pulse. Before her hand could get near Zhu Wu Xian, her wrist was held back by him. The man's gaze towards her became even more complicated. It was so complicated that Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. Her vision fell onto Zhu Wu Xian's hand which was holding her wrist and met with that pair of complicated eyes. You're making it hard for me to believe that you're all right. The one who's in trouble isn't me but you. Zhu Wu Xian placed her hand back into the blanket. Her voice was clear and cold, but the words she spat out were like a bomb thrown out. You don't even know that you're pregnant? Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she was struck by lightning as her eyes widened as she looked at Zhu Wuxian in shock. What was he saying? Pregnant? How was that possible? There were no signs of pregnancy at all. Yi Qing Luo suddenly recalled that when she was in the basement, there was indeed a strange feeling in her abdomen. When she left the basement, she fainted from the pain in her abdomen. Pain? Yi Qing Luo's hand suddenly pressed on her stomach. Before I fainted, my stomach? The child is fine. Zhu Wuxian's gaze was deep and serene as he looked at Yi Qing Luo's shocked but unconcealable joy, as well as the faint look of anticipation and concern towards the child in her tummy. His gaze grew deeper, but after all, she had suffered quite a bit of shock earlier. If she wants the child to be safe, then she has to recuperate properly. Yi Qing Luo's mind was in a mess, almost unable to think properly. She couldn't believe that in her stomach, there was actually a baby that belonged to her and Diamo Xian. Their baby. Yi Qing Luo's hand was placed gently on her abdomen, her fingertips trembled gently. If Diamo Xian knew about this, he would definitely be as ecstatic as her. He would be filled with mixed feelings of agitation and nervousness. You're very happy? Zhu Wuxian looked at the young lady's gentle face and seemed to have thought of something as her entire body emitted a sweet and joyous aura, as his heart felt a slight piercing pain. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love, everyone please collect it. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and hit me. Chapter 53:19. Yi Qing Luo's eyes drooped as she looked deeply at her flat tummy as her fingers trembled gently. Happy, naturally I'm happy. This was her and Xian's child. In her tummy was the child which belonged to her and Xian. Although there was bewilderment, nervousness, apprehension, shock. But most of it was the joy and agitation of having the crystallization of her and Xian's love. Zhu Wuxian's fingers under his white robes clenched slightly. That cold and indifferent face concealed all the emotions in his heart very well. He only calmly looked at Yi Qing Luo. His gaze was as cold as water and his voice was clear. But have you ever thought that the current situation, your pregnancy, will only drag you down? Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was caressing her tummy, suddenly paused as her pupils contracted slightly. Zhu Wuxian's voice was very cold. You're pregnant, so you must take care of the child in your tummy and not act recklessly like now. Otherwise it will not be beneficial to your body and the child in your tummy. Moreover, the pregnant you, do you still have the ability or energy to summon the sacred beast or activate the vast water god relic's energy? Have you ever thought of all these? Yi Qing Luo was stunned when she heard that as she fell silent. Right. Now was the best time to capture Huang Wuyo and get rid of him. She was pregnant at this critical juncture. Even if it was for the baby. She absolutely could not put herself in danger again. Nor could she go all out against Huang Wuyo. She wasn't alone now. Furthermore, the pregnant her activating the god relic's energy, would it affect the baby? This child has come at the wrong time. Zhu Wuxian's gaze was chilly. Yi Qing Luo, now various domains are fighting with Huang Wuyo's undead puppets and undead army, causing all the lives in the various domains to be plunged into misery and suffering. And the minute Huang Wuyo uses the forbidden arts and recovers 70% of his power, I'm afraid that by then the number of people who will die will increase and the domains that will be invaded will increase. Zhu Wuxian's vision slowly fell onto Yi Qing Luo's palm, which was caressing her abdomen. Especially, Huang Wuyo has now treated you as his vessel, and even Fengxi has been targeted by him. If he knew that you're pregnant, guess. Would he make use of the child in your womb as a bargaining chip? Zhu Wuxian's words were like a sharp weapon that ruthlessly tore apart the most realistic situation. Zhu Wuxian's words were very cruel. But it was undeniable that he was right. With the birth of this baby, she had to face a lot of problems. Yi Qing Luo, you only have one way now. Zhu Wuxian's chilly gaze was at the same level as Yi Qing Luo. His voice was calm and indifferent like water. However, the words that came out of his mouth were extremely cruel. This child cannot be kept. Impossible. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly widened as her body stopped abruptly and both her arms wrapped around her waist. This is my and Xian's child, our first child. I absolutely cannot not want this child. Her gaze towards Zhu Wuxian was filled with vigilance and anger. My baby's timing might indeed be wrong, but since it's here, it's here. The baby is already in my womb, so I cannot possibly give up on the baby. I don't want to hear this kind of words for the second time. Zhu Wuxian went silent. Yi Qing Luo caressed her abdomen as she didn't say another word. After a long time, She was a little tired from maintaining that position and slowly leaned back against the bed head. But her hand was still placed on her abdomen. When her brows drooped, her long and narrow eyes were filled with an obvious gentle maternal warmth. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:20. The baby's arrival made her overjoyed and excited. But as God Realm's divine phoenix, Feng family's eldest grandchild, she had to bear her mother's dying wish. She had to step forward bravely to settle Huang Wuyo. Especially now, Huang Wuyo's corpse puppets had already infiltrated into various realms. But now she had lost track of Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. Once she gave Huang Wuyo a chance, she was afraid that, based on Huang Wuyo's viciousness, plus the fact that various realms were in flames, Huang Wuyo might possibly make use of this convenience to replenish the missing energy in his body. By then, it would be even harder to deal with him. And she, under the premise of having this baby, all her actions had to consider the baby's safety. Yiqing Luo touched her abdomen as her mind was filled with thousands of thoughts. The room was silent for a long time. Finally, it was Chu Wuxian who broke the silence. He seemed to have understood something as he gave a long sigh and his cold voice rang faintly. You don't have to worry too much. The child in your stomach is much stronger than you think. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she raised her head to look at him. In the refining vessel, under that kind of intense flame, the child still managed to survive. Chu Wuxian's gaze fell onto her abdomen. Plus, after the refining vessel's 100 smelting flame, not only has your body been tempered, the child in your stomach has also gained a blessing in disguise. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. She recalled that when she was refining the vessel, Huang Wuyo had continuously increased the intensity of the flames. However, the initial discomfort she felt after being burned by the flames was gradually reduced to not feeling much of a pain. Initially, she thought she was used to that kind of temperature. Now that she thought about it, she was afraid that the change in her body was related to the refining vessel. At that time, her body had been tempered by the refining vessel's 100 smelting flame, so that her body had undergone an earth-shattering change. As compared to before, the state of her god physique was even better. The baby in her stomach, under the 100 smelting flame, it survived well. Not only that, under the situation where she kept on depleting her physical strength and profound energy, the baby was still healthy and had not suffered any fluctuations. It was indeed considered as a blessing in disguise. But what made Yiqing Luo puzzled was, when she was refining the vessel, when her physical strength was not enough, she obviously felt a surge of energy coming from her abdomen. It was this power that allowed her to hold on. Only then could she successfully follow Zhu Wuxin's aura and leave the refining vessel. That power, what could it be? So coincidentally, it was at the abdomen position? Could it be that it had something to do with her baby? This thought merely flashed past and was dispelled by Yiqing Luo. The baby in her stomach hadn't even formed yet. Speaking of which, if Huang Wuyo knew that the refining vessel he had spent so much time and effort to prepare had actually made her stronger, he would have been shocked. He was probably going to vomit blood again. Yiqing Luo checked her own pulse and after ascertaining that her baby was fine, she sat up straight. Where are we now? The design of this room did not seem like the demon palace of the demon domain. The two of them should have already left the infernal domain. As expected, Zhu Wuxin answered, the immortal realm. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she was puzzled why Zhu Wuxian brought her to God Realm. Perhaps he had seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts as Zhu Wuxian said calmly, Huang Wuyo has already left the infernal domain and currently, a large portion of the corpse puppets army are attacking towards the immortal realm. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:21. The moment Patriarch Feng returned to God Realm, he had already headed to the battlefield with the acting God Emperor. Feng family might not be able to hold on for long. So, I felt that you might want to return to God Realm, so I brought you back. Hearing Zhu Wuxian's words, Yiqing Luo's expression sunk. Huang Wuyo was planning to attack the three realms directly, to fulfill his ambition? Yiqing Luo remembered, based on Huang Wuyo's current state. Did he have the ability to attack the three realms? Once the three realms joined forces, he didn't have much of a chance of winning. But Huang Wuyo had done it. Moreover, before she fainted, Huang Wuyo had already employed the undead puppets to attack the devil's domain. And now to the three realms. Huang Wuyo shouldn't be doing something he had no confidence in. Unless, what reliance did he have? Yi Qing Luo's expression was unpredictable, as her hands, which were hanging by the side of the bed, clenched tightly into fists. Zhu Wuxian, thank you. She got off the bed and with a wave of her arm, the blazing red robe landed on her body. I must go stop Huang Wuyo. She walked quickly towards the door. But before she stepped out of the room, Zhu Wuxian's cold voice was heard from behind. If it was in the past, I wouldn't advise you. But, since you want to keep the child in your tummy, then you shouldn't go over. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps halted. Her hands slowly landed on her tummy. Zhu Wuxian looked at her back as he said word by word, you know very well that Huang Wuyo must have something to rely on for him to launch such a large-scale battle. If you join in the battle, you won't be able to protect the child in your tummy. Yi Qing Luo's body tensed up, as the slender fingers on her tummy gradually stiffened. Yi Qing Luo, stay here. Zhu Wuxian's cold voice carried a hint of bewitchment, as he walked step by step towards Yi Qing Luo's back. This is the safest place in the three realms. Stay here, I'll take care of you and you'll be able to give birth to the child safely. Yi Qing Luo, for the child in your tummy, you can't take the risk. His hand slowly stretched towards Yi Qing Luo's wrist. His face was as cold as cast, and his thin lips carried a faint smile that was hard to detect. But, just as Zhu Wuxian's hand was about to grab Yi Qing Luo suddenly took 2 steps back and walked out of the room, avoiding Zhu Wuxian's hand. She turned around. The wind fluttered her blazing red robe, and her long black hair fluttered like silk. That devastatingly beautiful face didn't have the slightest trace of emotion. She looked at Zhu Wuxin coldly. Her pink lips moved slightly, and her words were filled with a faint coldness. Zhu Wuxin, I don't care why you want me to stay, but you know very well that I can't let Zhu Wuxin attack the 3 realms without any scruples. I can't watch my brothers fight a bloody battle, and I definitely won't let my family suffer any harm. She paused, her long and narrow eyes faintly flashed with a trace of softness. I won't let A Xian fight alone. She was the divine phoenix of the God realm, the pillar of the God realm. She had promised her mother that she would protect the God realm that her mother had failed to protect. She had also promised her brothers that she would not let them suffer any harm because of her. She even promised Dmo Xian that no matter what, she would face it together with him. She couldn't possibly abandon her own responsibilities because of her own selfish desires. Zhu Wuxian's icy cold eyes faintly showed some fluctuations of emotions. Then you don't care about the child in your tummy's safety? 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:22. I will try my best to protect him. Yi Qing Luo's tone was resolute. Zhu Wuxian didn't say a word for a long time. Yi Qing Luo turned around as her jet black hair fluttered. Her back view was suave and carried an unquestionable charisma. Zhu Wuxian, thank you. Goodbye. This time round, Zhu Wuxian didn't stop her. But just as Yi Qing Luo's red figure completely disappeared in front of Zhu Wuxian's icy cold voice rang faintly, Dmo Xian. Is he really that good, so good that you disregard everything and go over to his side? Huang Wuyu's undead puppets' army had grown in numbers and it was already more than 1 million. And it had the tendency of exploding. Those undead puppets were all elite puppets. They swiftly attacked and occupied God Realm, Heaven Realm, Earth Realm, even Nirvana Realm. It was a bloodbath. There were people who could recognize them. Among those undead puppets, many of them were their loved ones whom they had been searching for a long time. Moreover, they all had one thing in common. Before they went missing, they were all extremely talented in cultivation or they had been soaked in medicinal pills since young, the hope of their clans. Now, all of them had turned into puppets that didn't know pain, didn't fear death, didn't have souls and 5 senses, only knowing how to kill. Yi Qing Luo's entire journey was littered with corpses and smoke. The raging fire pierced her eyes. The air was filled with a thick stench of blood. All of these were the traces left behind by the war. Yi Qing Luo endured the surging feeling in her stomach as she placed one hand on her abdomen and speedily walked on the battlefield, nearing her destination. God Realm. About 100 miles away from the Feng residence, it was a wasteland. The originally bustling main city had long fallen into enemy hands. Only the Feng residence and a few aristocratic residences remained standing. A purple figure stood on top of the city walls with his hands behind his back. The battle cries of the undead puppets and God Realm's guards reverberated in the sky. The man's peerless face was filled with an icy coldness. Still worried about last Luo? An old voice was heard from the man's back. The coldness on the man's body receded slightly. Grandfather. That girl is the destined ruler of the divine emperors, the destined successor of the god realm, so, no matter what happens, nothing will happen to her. Patriarch Feng slowly walked to the man's side and looked at the battlefield with him. Blood dyed the dark sky red. Emotion. Feng Clan's master suddenly spoke. He looked sideways at the man beside him and he sighed, "Go." Grandfather. Diamo Xian was slightly stunned, his voice was slightly hoarse. Feng Clan master closed his eyes. "I know you are staying here to protect us for Luo Ya. That's enough." Diamo Xian's slender fingers slowly clenched. Feng Clan master raised his hand and patted his shoulder. "We are also very worried about that girl. I'm afraid only you can find her in this world. Go find her. She's Feng Ji's daughter. Only she can stop this catastrophe." Between Diamo Xian's eyes, there was a faint flickering light. His gaze shifted to the corpses strewn all over the battlefield. Finally, he clenched his fist. "Grandfather, I will definitely bring Luo heir." Before he could finish his words, suddenly a deafening roar exploded. Not far away, a strong force was approaching from afar, as if it was breaking through the sky, with irresistible force. That was hundreds of undead puppets clustered together. On top of those undead puppets, a figure shrouded in a black robe stood against the wind. The violent and tyrannical hurricane made the other party's black robe flutter. "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love." Chapter 53-23. Very quickly he was nearing. When Diamo Xian saw that person's face clearly, the handsome brows on his peerless face creased slightly. It was actually him. Dragon. Proud. Heavens. Recalling that it was because of Long Outyen that he separated from Yiqing Luo on Devil Destruction Mountain, Diamo Xian's heart surged with raging fury. Long Outyen had betrayed Lil Luo, Er's trust. It was because he had lied to Lil Luo, which was why she fell into his trap. Diamo Xian didn't dare to imagine how much suffering Yiqing Luo would have suffered if she fell into Huang Wuyo's hands. "Long Outyen, you still have the guts to come out." The minute the World Group's members saw Long Outyen, all of their eyes were filled with rage. The gazes they shot towards Long Outyen were filled with hatred. Long Outyen, who was stepping on numerous dead puppets' heads, took a glance at them expressionlessly and finally his gaze landed onto Diamo Xian. He opened his mouth indifferently without much emotion. "Why wouldn't this seat dare to come out? Do you think that you can win this seat?" The World Group's members' hands which were holding onto their weapons were trembling from anger and frustration. Yes, their abilities were indeed not comparable to Long Outyen, this 10,000-year-old demon dragon, but the minute they thought that Yiqing Luo had fallen into Huang Wuyo's hands because of him, even if they knew that they couldn't win him, they still wanted to charge up and fight with him. Long Yunzhan's azure blue eyes were like rippling waves. That usually expressionless face was now covered with thick anger. Demon Dragon King? It's after all just a species which was crowned king 10,000 years ago. The current era belongs to the younger generation. I'd like to see how awe-inspiring this old demon dragon can be. Long Yunzhan's words made the World Group's members all widen their eyes. Qiao Jing gave a thumbs up. "Incredible, our group leader actually knows how to ridicule a human." "Pui, he's ridiculing a dragon." Yin Shaoyi slapped his head. "Be serious. Don't you know what kind of occasion this is?" Tong Ziqing looked at Long Yunzhan worriedly. "Group leader? Demon Dragon King is after all a 10,000-year-old demon dragon. Although you're already the human dragon race's king, but don't worry." Long Yunzhan's eyes were calm as he glanced at Tong Ziqing. With the dragon bone sword in his hand, he leaped into the air and slashed at Long Outyen. "Long Yunzhan." A low and dignified voice stopped Long Yunzhan's actions. The shimmering figure on the high platform had suddenly appeared in front of Long Yunzhan and blocked his path. Diamo Xian's eyes were cold and his voice was chilly. "His target is this lord." During the period when Yiqing Luo disappeared, Huang Wuyo's undead puppets quickly took over the various surfaces. As a result, countless interfaces fought back in a fluster. The battle in the immortal world was the fiercest. Diamo Xian led the Imperial Palace to support them, and as a spiritual pillar, he had not really made any vicious moves. And Long Outyen's appearance. It was obvious that Huang Wuyo had purposely arranged this. Huang Wuyo had already calculated that today would be the end of his patience. He had predicted that he would definitely leave the battlefield today to look for Yiqing Luo. That was why Long Outyin was here. In the entire God realm, the only person who could stop Long Outyin, the Demon Dragon King from 10,000 years ago, was Diamo Xian. It's good that you know this seat can't be bothered to kill anyone else. Long Outyin stretched out both his arms as he floated down from the undead puppet's head and sped towards Diamo Xian's direction. Diamo Xian speedily pushed Long Yunzhan back into the world group's boundary as he raised his palm to meet Long Outyen's attack. Two bursts of energy exploded in the sky. Chapter 53-24. Demon Dragon King's power, even after 10,000 years, was still as powerful as before, shaking the heavens and earth. After Diamo Xian's palm met with his, a glint of profound meaning flashed past his eyes as the expression on his face turned solemn. Whereas on the other side, those who were entangled with the undead puppets didn't have the time to observe this battle. The undead puppets, which didn't know fatigue, swarmed towards them once again. Originally, when they were dealing with those hundreds of thousands of undead puppets, God Realm soldiers and those who came to help were already having a hard time. Now, Long Outyin had brought another batch of obviously more powerful elite undead puppets to join in. That made it even harder for them to resist. That batch of elite undead puppets only numbered a few hundred, but their battle power was shocking. In just a short moment, they had already defeated the soldiers who were defending the first line of defense. Just as the elite undead puppets were about to attack the second line of defense, Long Yunzhan raised his long sword and azure blue profound light shot out, turning into a majestic and vast sword chi as it slashed upwards. That azure blue long sword's blade seemed to be covered with a layer of thick dragon scales, indestructible. Bam bam bam. Among the undead puppets, the profound light exploded as the air was filled with a majestic imposing manner. Under the sky full of profound light, Long Yunzhan's figure was faintly discernible as the azure blue long sword in his hands slashed out numerous sword waves. Long Yunzhan's eruption gave the soldiers sufficient morale. The battle instantly turned incomparably fierce. The other members of the world group weren't to be outdone as they carried their weapons and charged up, as compared to the first line of defense, which was easily defeated. As for the second line of defense, that bunch of elite undead puppets were actually unable to break through. However, while the others were unaware of it, the blood-stained sky was gradually covered with a layer of thick black fog. The fog was filled with a shocking cold air. Soundlessly, neared the second line of defense. Diamo Xian, who was exchanging blows with Long Outyin, indistinctly sensed a strange change in the air. Just as he was about to shift his gaze over, Long Outyin's figure had already blocked his line of sight. That sunken cold face was filled with a tinge of admiring battle intent. "Young lad, you dare to be distracted while exchanging blows with this seat? Are you looking down on this seat?" His light words were accompanied by an even more ferocious attack. Before anyone realized it, Yimo had already left. In the void of the second line of defense, a vortex-shaped black hole was slowly torn open. Little by little, slowly it began to expand. A vast and boundless dark force, accompanied by cold yin qi, spread out from the entrance of the cave. The thick black mist formed a huge palm. Like 5 sharp blades drilling out of a black hole, they grabbed towards the world group members on the battlefield. "Be careful!" Xiao Jin sensed that something was wrong. His pure golden pupils reflected a large patch of thick black mist. His first reaction was swift as he stretched out his long arm and immediately clasped Yen Xiaoyi's slender waist, bringing her into his embrace. The 5 sharp fingers formed by the black fog brushed past Xiao Jin and missed. However, the other members were also swept into the palms of the black fog. Screams of pain came from the mouths of those members. Ziqing. Long Yunzhan sheathed his sword and turned around to see Tong Ziqing hanging in midair. Quite a number of members were also suspended in midair as they kept on struggling. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin exchanged glances and speedily leapt up, attempting to charge towards that black fog palm which had drilled out of the black hole. But 20 over undead puppets swiftly appeared in front of them, blocking the path of those who wanted to head up to rescue her. Chapter 53-25. They totally had no way to get close. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin's pupils contracted as the expression on their faces turned extremely aghast. The two of them tried their best to kill the undead puppets in front of them, as they wanted to charge forward to save the world group's members. But that black hole whirlpool which was surging with waves was extremely fast. After grabbing more than half of the group members, it swiftly swallowed them into the black hole. The black hole was shrinking bit by bit. Bam! Suddenly, a deafening explosion resounded from the horizon. It shook the entire ground. A devilish red glow instantly covered the entire sky. It also covered that huge black hole as it was dyed with a large patch of fresh blood red. The devilish red glow seemed as though it was burning the entire sky as it gave off a hissing sound. Everyone saw a blazing red fan as it spun in midair, as though it was a sharp blade, enough to slice everything in the world, including the profound chi that was formed. The blazing red fan forcefully cut off the hand which was stretched out from the black hole. The world group's members all started to fall from midair. Clang! A deafening cry caused the entire battlefield to surge with a surge of high-spirited battle power. Fiery red flames streaked across the sky. A huge vermilion bird spread its wings and soared, as it steadily caught every single member of the world group. A brilliant tail, as though it had ignited the entire sky with a raging flame. That is Qing Luo. It's Qing Luo's glower flame fan. And the scarlet flame. Is Qing Luo here? When the World Mercenary Group's members saw this familiar glower flame fan and the vermilion bird, their faces revealed an overjoyed expression. Under the sky full of raging flames, a bright young lady dressed in red, like a blossoming bloodthirsty poppy, seemed as though she was stepping on the flames. Her fair hand lifted slightly. The glower flame fan spun one round in midair, as it landed into her palm. She stood casually in midair, as numerous devilish red glow encircled her body. As though a fairy from the 9 heavens had descended, noble and holy, unattainable. Qing Luo. It's Qing Luo. Quickly look, it's Madame Qing Luo. Countless ecstatic voices sounded from the battlefield. When all the profound practitioners who were participating in this battle heard these excited cheers, they all looked towards the horizon, at the red figure that was covered in raging flames. Even Long Ao Tian, who was entangled with Dmo Xian, was slightly dazed when he looked at Yi Qing Luo. Bang! The girl in the air suddenly raised her hand. A ray of light shot out from his fingertips. Long Outyin, who was still in a daze, was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Long Outyin was still in a daze and he was lying on the ground motionlessly. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's gaze, it seemed as though he had seen another person through Yi Qing Luo, sinking into his own memories. Yi Qing Luo's posture was dignified. With an absolute disdainful stance, she raised her voice and shouted, "This phoenix will absolutely not allow you to endanger the safety of the various worlds." Her expression was cold as she swept her gaze across the battlefield, at the people fighting against the undead corpse puppets. All of you have put in so much effort to protect the various worlds, this phoenix will remember it. From now onwards, this phoenix will fight side by side with all of you, to completely uproot this bunch of people who had invaded the various world positions, attempting to destroy the peace of the world positions. Huang Wuyo. 10,000 years ago, this phoenix's mother, the previous god emperor, died because of sealing Huang Wuyo. Chapter 53:26. The young lady's sonorous and powerful voice sounded like a bell. She raised her hand. A majestic force swept out from her body. The flames turned into a phoenix as it circled around her. The cherry blossom petal on the young lady's forehead gave off a bewitching and glaring red glow. Everyone's eyes were dyed red by the flames. In their hearts, a monstrous battle intent surged. One by one, they gripped the weapons in their hands tightly as their profound chi surged and swarmed into the battlefield. The momentum of the battle erupted once again. Long Outyin regained his senses as he slowly stood up from the ground as he looked at Yi Qing Luo with a complicated gaze. However, that noble and godlike young lady did not even spare him a glance. The glower flame fan in her hands pressed against his neck mercilessly. Long Outyin, you coward. You don't dare to admit that you like my mother, so you use such a method to deny it. Do you think, after choosing to help the person my mother hates, Huang Wuyo, you still have the right to like my mother? Her voice was chilly, and there was no hint of euphemism in it. It pierced through the last line of defense in Long Outyin's heart. She didn't kill Long Outyin. Killing him would be the greatest release for him. For the rest of his life, Long Outyin would live in the pain and torment of his past. Yi Qing Luo's return completely destroyed the undead puppets that Huang Wuyo had painstakingly refined. In the depths of the dark abyss, Huang Wuyo, who was shrouded in Densin Qi, sat cross-legged. Qi website. The dense black aura around him was constantly pouring into his body. It made that gentle face that belonged to Gu Jingyu to surface a dense evil aura. His entire person seemed extremely gloomy. Revered Wuyu. Bad news. A skinny man dressed in a black robe swayed as he rushed in. Revered Wuyu. Our puppet army has been destroyed by a woman. She has already snatched the God Realm's territory. Huang Wuyo opened his eyes abruptly. The dense black qi overflowed from his pupils as it circulated bit by bit. That person knelt on the ground. Revered Sir Worryless, the dead corpse puppets led by the various armies cannot hold on any longer. I'm afraid that even the heaven domain and the earth domain will fall. The man continued, Master Long is no match for His Majesty. Now, even Master Long is under His Majesty's control. Venerable Worryless, please take action personally. Fight a beautiful battle for our Wuyo Empire. That person's voice trembled, but it was filled with passion and reverence for Huang Wuyo. Huang Wuyo's hands, which were resting on his knees, were clenched into fists. His eyes were filled with raging yin qi. Yiqing Luo. It's that woman again. Huang Wuyo gritted his teeth, his face contorted in anger. Revered Sir Worryless, we have to ask you to take action personally this time. Our brothers on the battlefield can't hold on any longer. That person shouted, himself hoarse with hatred towards the enemy. The world can only belong to our Wuyo Empire. Huang Wuyo's face darkened as he waved his sleeves. The surrounding yin qi swirled around and gradually formed a circle in front of him. Not long later, a projection appeared in mid-air. In the projection, the flames of war raged continuously as layers upon layers of baleful qi surged. Both sides' warriors were contending against each other. The dead corpse puppets which had been meticulously nurtured should be an invincible existence. However, when the flaming figure of the woman appeared, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Chapter 53:27. The elite puppets that he was so proud of had fallen one by one. Standing in mid-air, the feather fan spun as she waved her sleeves. She easily repelled all the puppets. Little by little, Huang Wuyo's pupils dilated in Huang Wuyo's eyes. Vaguely, he seemed to have seen the past. The girl smiled brightly at him and called out to him with a soft voice. Ah Huang! Ah Huang! Ah Huang! Those cries were surging in his mind. Even the surrounding black qi seemed to have dimmed by quite a bit. Ah! Huang Wuyo covered his head with one hand as the other hand was raised up high, exploding a violent and terrifying profound ray. Rumble. Bam. Everything in the surroundings was shattered by this terrifying profound ray. The entire space was shattered. I will never allow anyone to obstruct my plan. This world will only belong to me alone. Huang Wuyo let out another loud and furious roar. Suddenly leaping into the sky, he turned into a black shadow and under the gloomy yin qi, he scurried into mid-air. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared into the abyss. At the same time, the skinny man who was kneeling on the ground suddenly fell to the ground. Plop. The black robe that enveloped his body fell to the ground, revealing the eerie white bones under the black robe. That wasn't human at all. Indistinctly, a wisp of alluring red light floated out from that white bones. In the end, it disappeared under the yin qi that filled the sky. Huang Wuyo stood in the sky, stepping on the thick dark qi. 1-8. Even thousands of miles away he could see the situation of the various domains. His sharp eyes were searching for traces of Yiqing Luo. The raging murderous intent in his eyes was like a storm, about to explode. Suddenly, his vision fell onto a certain interface. That was Yiqing Luo's group of companions? If they were here, Yiqing Luo would definitely be here too. Black qi lingered in Huang Wuyo's eyes as he speedily flew towards the direction of the Earth domain. Fresh blood spread across the battlefield, and countless dismembered corpses were scattered all over the ground. However, it was as if they had their own consciousness as they continued to squirm and attack the soldiers in the land again. However, when a batch of them went up, they were chopped into pieces by the young boys and girls. In the end, they were turned into minced meat that could no longer fight. Under the leadership of the barbaric Bloodbone King, the soldiers of the Earth realm approached step by step. The undead corpse puppets, as well as the major forces that had sided with Huang Wuyo, were forced to retreat again and again. The news of Huang Wuyo's forces being wiped out from the deity world had spread to the other planes. This boosted everyone's morale, and the more they fought, the braver they became. Huang Wuyo's forces seemed to have lost their backbone. Just as the barbaric Bloodbone King and the World Mercenary Group led their soldiers and other mercenary groups to annihilate the last wave of Huang Wuyo's forces. Suddenly, a thick black fog surged up from the horizon. It was like an open mouth that swallowed all the light in the world. Violent and overbearing profound energy, accompanied by a soaring murderous aura, slashed downwards. The gloomy yin qi was like an icy frost that spread across the entire battlefield. The soldiers of the World Mercenary Group quickly raised their heads and looked towards the horizon. In the dark sky, a black figure seemed to have merged with the sky. Only half of the figure could be seen clearly, but it was so huge that it almost covered half the sky. When they saw the face of the figure clearly, Long Yunjian frowned. Long Yunjian frowned. Young Sect Master Gu? I originally wanted to post the ending in one go after writing it, but after thinking about it, I decided to first post a few chapters to tell the babies who are still waiting for the ending of the Divine Phoenix Empire. The next update should directly update all the endings. The ending is a little rushed. I hope everyone can forgive me. If I have the time, I will write the extra chapters. Regardless of whether my babies read it or not, I will still write the extra chapters for the CP. This is just Master Mo's yearning, and also Divine Phoenix's yearning. As for the reason, I can't explain it. Those who haven't experienced it will not understand it. I just want to say that if it wasn't for the fact that they were so mentally broken that they couldn't stand up, no author would put down the book that they deeply loved for so long and let their beloved babies wait for so long. Writing an ending is my final explanation to everyone, to the Divine Phoenix and to myself. As for the new book, I don't have any ideas for now. I can't keep up with the current trends and hot topics, so I need to enrich myself. Chapter 53-28. No. He's Huang Wuyo. Yin Shaoyi frowned. Look at his eyes. The figure in mid-air was Huang Wuyo, who was floating in the air. Although he had a gentle jade-like face, there wasn't a single trace of color in his eyes. It was filled with a dense black qi. It made him look incomparably ruthless. Huang Wuyo. You finally appeared. A rat hiding in the dark dares to play tricks behind our backs. If you have the ability, then come and fight with us. The brothers of the World Mercenary Group revealed an enraged expression when they found out that this person was Huang Wuyo. The various large domains were currently embroiled in the flames of war, and countless of innocent commoners had died in the hands of the flames of war. There were also numerous large families and powerhouses who had sacrificed countless of their loved ones and elite disciples before they could barely defend their homes. The main culprit of everything was Huang Wuyo. Huang Wuyo floated in mid-air as the dense black yin qi churned like a black wave, making him look even more sinister. His ruthless eyes coldly swept across the people below him as his voice was cold and sinister, as though he had an echo effect, making him seem even more sinister. A bunch of ants dare to fight with me? His sleeves moved. The surrounding black yin qi suddenly turned into a huge black dragon as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it charged towards the World Mercenary Group brothers. That black dragon was surrounded by a dense black fog. But its speed was extremely fast. The moment it neared them, they felt a sharp shen wave attacking their cheeks. It was horrifying, as though death was approaching. The faces of the World Mercenary Group turned pale as they hurriedly tried to retreat. But their speed was too late. Just at this critical moment, a loud ping sound rang out. Countless eerie white bones broke out from the ground as it formed a bone wall, blocking the incoming shen wave. It also protected the group. Yin Shaoyi's expression eased up slightly. Luckily Uncle Bone is here, otherwise we, clicked the book vault. Before she could finish her sentence, everyone had yet to heave a sigh of relief. Huang Wuyo's attack. When both parties collided, the black dragon dissipated into the air. That bone wall suddenly split open with a crack. Following that, cracking sounds could be heard as it split open. Countless eerie white bones shattered onto the ground. The blood-bone barbarian king, who was in front of everyone, spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed slightly. He immediately tightened his grip on the bone spear in his hand and fiercely stabbed it into the ground, barely managing to maintain his balance. Blood-bone barbarian king. Uncle Bone? The members of the band of brothers had worried expressions as they called out to him. The blood-bone barbarian king waved his hand. It's nothing. He gasped lightly and slowly stood up with his spear. His face was strangely pale. You guys have to be careful. His power seems to have become stronger. Originally, from the news that Yiqing Luo brought back, they knew that Huang Wuyo had been using the dead corpse puppets and other forces that he controlled to charge and break through the enemy lines totally because Huang Wuyo had met with an accident when he was trying to break the seal forcefully, then he was messed around by Yiqing Luo time and time again. His main body became extremely weak. His strength was far from his peak 10,000 years ago. But as the blood-bone barbaric king from 10,000 years ago, according to what Yiqing Luo said, his profound energy should be above Huang Wuyo. But from that exchange just now, the barbaric blood-bone king clearly felt Huang Wuyo's powerful shen wave. That was absolutely not the weakened state of his main body. During this period of time, what on earth did Huang Wuyo do? Chapter 53:29. Ha ha ha. Huang Wuyo laughed maniacally as he looked down coldly at the man below. Blood Bone, we haven't met for so many years and you're still the same, knowing your place. Blood Bone Barbaric King's eyes darkened. Huang Wuyo opened his arms wide. The black fog in the sky surged. It was as if the entire sky had become his slave. Blood Bone Barbaric King held his blood bone spear tightly as his eyes were filled with viciousness. Huang Wuyo, I was too self-aware, that's why I gave you the chance to hurt Gur. Huang Wuyo's maniacal laughter stopped abruptly. His face was cold as he stared at Blood Bone Barbaric King fiercely. What are you? Who allowed you to call her that? This title can only be used by me alone. You're the one who hurt her. You're the one who made her soul dissipate. What right do you have to say that? Blood Bone Barbaric King sneered. Huang Wuyo's expression turned uglier by the minute. The surging black yin qi bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it clamored. It was a declaration of Huang Wuyo's anger. She's also my wife and my daughter's mother. Huang Wuyo's voice was filled with terrifying ruthlessness and madness. And you are just a trash who doesn't even have the right to stand beside her. Blood Bone Barbaric King wasn't angry but sneered and ridiculed. Your wife? Have you ever treated her as your wife? You've only been using her. All along using her. Your daughter? Have you ever treated Qing Luo as your daughter? What you've been coveting is the profound heart jade in Qing Luo's body which can inherit the divine phoenix's bloodline. From the start, you've only loved yourself. He held the blood bone spear and pointed it towards the sky as he sneered. Huang Wuyo, you're very clear that Gur will never forgive you and will never forgive you, so you're very upset in the depths of your heart, am I right? He could hear the hysteria in Huang Wuyo's tone. He could also hear the anger from him trying his best to deceive himself. Because Huang Wuyo was very clear of his position in Feng Ji's heart. Other than hatred, there was only hatred. 100 Flowers literature. Feng Ji's feelings for Huang Wuyo had long been exhausted by Huang Wuyo's repeated ambitions. However, Huang Wuyo did not want to admit it. He would rather lie to himself and believe that he was still in Feng Ji's heart. The barbaric Blood Bone King could not help but sneer in his heart. Was there any use for Huang Wuyo to regret now? No, it's useless. Because Huang Wuyo knew that it was useless, he only had one choice, and that was to follow through with his decision without any hesitation. He would carry on his ambition without any hesitation. Otherwise, all the things he had done would be meaningless. Only by satisfying his ambition could he convince himself of the regret and guilt in the depths of his heart. Perhaps the words of the Blood Bone Barbarian King had provoked Huang Wuyo. Perhaps it was the ridicule in the eyes of the barbaric Blood Bone King that provoked Huang Wuyo. His heart, which was already filled with hostility towards the barbaric Blood Bone Monarch, seemed to have found an excuse to vent at this moment. He suddenly stretched out his hands towards the sky, and an endless amount of power surged. The dark sky was instantly shrouded in black fog. I absolutely won't regret it. I absolutely won't regret it. Absolutely. I was born to be the overlord of this heaven and earth. All of you submit to me. Rumble, a deafening buzzing sound exploded with a loud bang. Chapter 53:30. The power of the Ancient Ones exploded forth in an instant. Cracks began to appear on the ground as it began to crack. Boom. Countless buildings collapsed. The people standing on the ground began to sway. Not good. He wants to destroy the entire land. Is he crazy? He actually wants to destroy this realm. His strength. How could it be so strong? What's going on? No, run. Below the Earth realm, everyone's faces were filled with disbelief. Huang Wuyo actually wanted to destroy this world with just a single sentence, causing all the living beings in this world to disappear along with it. This was too ruthless. The barbaric Blood Bone King's expression suddenly turned serious. He gripped his spear tightly and raised his eyes to look at Huang Wuyo, who was emitting a murderous aura. He said in a low voice, I will go and stop him. Gather the other soldiers first. Follow the order and avoid the places where the cracks are. Uncle Bone, no. Yen Xiaoyi's eyebrows creased. That old monster is obviously not normal now, and you even got injured while protecting us. This king is fine. Blood Bone Barbaric King waved his hand. We can only stop him from continuing his cultivation and hold on till Qing Luo and the others rush over, then everything will be fine. Long Yunzhan's face was cold. I'll stay and help you. Me too. Qiao Jin also spoke up. The other members of the world group immediately stood out. You are no match for him. Barbaric Blood-Bone King shook his head in rejection. Let's not waste any more time here. If we continue to stay here, the Earth Realm will have no hope and we won't be able to wait for Qing Luo's arrival. Xiao Jin still wanted to say something, but Long Yunzhan had already grabbed his shoulder. There was no time to waste. If the Earth domain was really destroyed by Huang Wuyo, the other realms would probably be affected as well. At that time, Huang Wuyo would probably use the same method to deal with the other realms. Everyone began to move in an orderly manner. The Blood-Bone Barbarian King looked at the young faces behind him. At this moment, each and every one of them was seriously mobilizing the other soldiers. It was so orderly, so calm. He gripped the spear in his hand tightly. He pressed his hand tightly against his chest. He had promised Gur that he would protect her daughter. He had also promised Gur's daughter that he would protect her brother. Therefore he had to stop Huang Wuyo's crazy behavior. The Blood-Bone Barbarian King clenched his fingers tightly and leaped forward with his spear. Huang Wuyo, stop being so stubborn. The things you've been pursuing have always been wrong. Countless densely packed bloody bones stretched out from his body and spread out in all directions like a cobweb. Those bloody bones disappeared into the thick black mist that filled the sky. Oh! The Blood-Bone Barbarian Monarch suddenly let out a muffled groan when it entered the black fog and quickly stretched towards Huang Wuyo. The black energy quickly followed the Blood-Bone and bound it. It was as if it wanted to devour the barbaric Blood-Bone King. A twisted smile appeared on Huang Wuyo's face. You want to devour me? Bone Lord, do you really think that you are the same Bone Lord that I used and devoured 10,000 years ago? He laughed heartily. What a pity. What a pity. Those tricks of yours aren't worth mentioning in front of this seat. After the Blood-Bone Barbarian King heard Huang Wuyo's words, the scene of him transforming into Feng Gu 10,000 years ago appeared in his mind. Time and time again he lied to him, hurt him and made use of him. The scarlet in his eyes turned even redder as though blood was flowing out. That's right, it's like this. Chapter 53:31. Huang Wuyu. The bloodshot eyes of the Blood-Bone Barbaric King had almost spread to the whites of his eyes. The smile on Huang Wuyo's face became even more twisted. The thick black fog in the sky slowly gathered and turned into a sharp blade, grabbing towards the Blood-Bone Barbaric King. This heaven and earth should belong to me right from the start. I am the ruler of this heaven and earth. No one is able to stop me. Bam bam bam. The cracking sound of the interface was getting more and more obvious. The Blood-Bone Barbaric King's blood bones were entangled with the black chi around Huang Wuyo. But it was obvious that Huang Wuyo was about to devour the Blood-Bone Barbaric King. Just at this moment, a clear and cold voice faintly rang out amidst the rumbling that filled the sky. Is that so? But I don't think so. That voice wasn't loud, but it covered the sound of the heaven and earth collapsing. It slowly went into Huang Wuyo's ears. It made Huang Wuyo's twisted face congeal slightly. Under the thick black sky, it was dyed with the color of a coquettish flame. In an instant, it lit up the surrounding sky. A blazing figure stepped on the air and came over. The red long dress was like a blossoming flower of sparks, with traces of the raging flames. The young lady's beautiful face was cold, with a noble and unattainable bearing. She held a flame feather fan in her hand and with a gentle wave, it instantly dispersed all the yin qi. Qian. Yi Qing Luo commanded. Qi Yin opened its mouth and spat out a purifying flame. The moment Yi Qing Luo appeared, the moment the purifying flame spread. The people who were escaping below seemed to have seen the hope of a new life. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips swept. The glower flame fan in her palm spun out. Bam! Crackle! The yin qi surrounding the barbaric Blood-Bone King was completely dispersed. She flew to the side of the Blood-Bone Barbaric King and supported him with one hand. Uncle Gu, are you all right? I'm fine. The Blood-Bone Barbaric King wiped the blood from the corner of his lips. You must be careful, his current condition doesn't seem right. Yi Qing Luo's delicate brows creased slightly as her gaze shifted to Huang Wuyo. Between her half-squinted eyes, a cold light flowed. He merely used a forbidden technique to return to his peak potential. Yi Qing Luo said calmly as her tone didn't seem to mind. At his peak? The barbaric Blood-Bone King's expression suddenly changed. He knew very well that even the Divine Phoenix and Feng Gu could only fight Huang Wuyo to a draw at his peak. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly. Using the forbidden technique is totally going against the balance of heaven's way. There are gains and there are losses. In order for him to recover to his peak strength, he naturally paid an equal price. She smirked and looked at Huang Wuyo with an increasingly cold gaze. I'd like to see how long he can maintain his strength at his peak. Ha! In the sky, Huang Wuyo's cold laughter could be heard. As expected of my daughter, you can even tell that I have recovered my full strength. Yiqing Luo slowly raised her hand and opened the glower flame fan with her fingertips. Do you really think that you can go against me if you recover your full strength? Daughter, aren't you looking down on me? Huang Wuyo intentionally called Yiqing Luo daughter, in a disgusting manner as he sneered. I know that the current you has completely integrated the profound jade heart into your body and have inherited the God Emperor's power and Gur's profound energy, but... Chapter 53:32. Even if Yiqing Luo wanted to defend against this last attack, it would be a little strenuous. Her brows creased slightly as her fingertips brushed past the glower flame fan. A wisp of raging flame light scuttled. The pressure on her also rose sharply at this moment. Rumble, the earth boundary finally could not take this kind of pressure. The sky suddenly seemed to be filled with densely packed spider web cracks. Kacha, immediately following that, a crisp sound was heard. The entire sky started to shatter. And the place where it shattered had turned into a huge black hole, as though it was going to swallow the entire boundary. This change made the both of them stop what they were doing as their gazes turned towards the direction of the shattering. The sky continued to shatter and with a lightning-fast speed, it was about to shatter towards their battlefield. Huang Wuyo's expression changed as he took a quick glance at Yiqing Luo and turned around to leave. They could not continue to stay in this boundary any longer. If they continued to stay here. Once the crack on the boundary reached their side, the both of them along with the entire boundary would be sucked away by that black hole. His original intention was to destroy the earth boundary. But he had no intention to be destroyed along with the earth boundary in this place. He was the dignified revered Wu Yu, the person who was destined to ascend to the top. How could he possibly die here along with such a broken boundary? But he had just moved. A fiery red figure had already blocked in front of him. The glower flame fan in the young lady's hand drew out a sharp blade. Huang Wuyo took a small step back. The sharp blade cut through his hair as it flew along with the hurricane. Trying to leave? Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as her long and narrow eyes curled into an arc. Do you think that this phoenix will let you leave the earth boundary and continue to harm others? This is the destruction of the boundary. Huang Wuyo's face revealed a rare anxious expression. Once we are swallowed by the black hole, we will all disappear along with this boundary. So all the more I will not let you leave. Yiqing Luo's eyes were smiling as her voice was faint and cold. Huang Wuyo's pupils suddenly widened. You want to die here? No, I want you to die here. Yiqing Luo's words had just ended when a sharp cold glint shot out from her eyes. His attacks were getting sharper and sharper. Huang Wuyo's face darkened as he looked at the collapsing black hole. Yiqing Luo flicked her fingers lightly. Amidst the raging flames and thick black yin qi, countless silver threads shot out from the glowing flame fan, wrapping themselves around Huang Wuyo. The approaching aura of death caused Huang Wuyo's eyes to be filled with anger. He was like an infuriated beast. Fengqing Luo, do you think you can trap me like this? He shouted in a hoarse voice, his 5 fingers quickly clenched, and the black robe on his body fluttered in the strong wind. Bang! A powerful and tyrannical profound energy exploded from his body. The silver wires which Yiqing Luo had hooked out were all broken by this profound energy. The corner of Yiqing Luo's mouth overflowed with a trace of blood as her figure took 2 steps back. Since you want to be destroyed along with this realm, then, be destroyed. Huang Wuyo's eyes were sharp and ruthless. He turned his hand and gathered a ruthless dark force, which transformed into a huge black dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it attacked Yiqing Luo. As for him, he sped towards the direction of the realm. Yiqing Luo chased up swiftly. But the huge black dragon had sharp claws and a gloomy aura. At the same time, behind him, that crack which was collapsing rapidly was already nearing Yiqing Luo's back. Ah! Fengqing Luo, even your mother is not my opponent, how dare you fight with me? Huang Wuyo had already reached the exit of the realm. He turned his head and looked at Yiqing Luo who was about to be swallowed by the black hole. His face revealed a pitiful but inexplicable excited smile. Once Yiqing Luo, the descendant of Fenggu who had inherited the power of the God Emperor, disappeared from this world, then no one in this world would be able to match up to him. His plan, his ambition for the past 10,000 years. And it was finally going to be realized. Although it was a pity that his profound heart jade and the power of the God Emperor were not in his hands. But it was enough to get rid of this stumbling block. Just as Huang Wuyo turned his head and was about to step out of the entrance of the realm, suddenly, a ray of golden light passed through the entrance and entered the realm. Immediately following that, a majestic and vast strong aura started to spread. Huang Wuyo had no time to react at all. He was knocked back into the realm by that ray of golden light. In a split second, the entire realm which was about to collapse was enveloped by this golden ray. The entire realm turned into a patch of golden light which was extremely dazzling. Countless figures of light and golden quicksand slowly filled the surroundings bit by bit. The collapsing boundary was also stopped by the brilliant golden light, as if it had been fixed in place. Huang Wuyo was pierced by this ray as he gave out a painful shriek. He speedily climbed up and tried to scurry towards the entrance of the realm. But in the air, there seemed to be a golden barrier which caused him to bounce back. Huang Wuyo looked at the golden light which filled the sky and faintly sensed something. His expression turned darker and darker. Yiqing Luo was standing not too far away as she stood in the air. She quietly looked at Huang Wuyo as he tried to break through the barrier time and time again to leave the realm. She curled her lips as she scoffed, "Do you think that now you can still leave this place? What did you do?" Huang Wuyo stopped his actions as he used a vicious gaze to stare at Yiqing Luo fiercely. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as her eyes revealed an undetectable coldness. "Isn't it the strongest revered warrioress? Still can't understand the current situation?" Huang Wuyo's expression turned uglier and uglier as the guesses in his heart started to expand. The dazzling golden light enveloped the entire shattered realm. With a speed which could be seen with the naked eye, it drew lines of profound patterns in the air, as though it had formed a golden shackle, sealing everything in the realm. Qing Luo. The voices of the World Group's brothers were heard from the entrance of the realm. The golden light floated and Yan Xiaoyi and the others' faces could be seen indistinctly in the golden light. "The God confining array is about to be completed. Give us your hand and we'll pull you out." Yan Xiaoyi spoke with a worried look. "Yes, God confining array. This realm, right from the start, Yiqing Luo had intended to use it as bait to lure Huang Wuyo into the trap. Previously in the dark abyss, that messenger who requested Huang Wuyo to take action personally, was in fact manipulated by DMO Xian by Yiqing Luo to intentionally say those words in front of Huang Wuyo. As for that messenger, long before he entered the dark abyss, he had already become a corpse. Whereas the moment Huang Wuyo stepped into the realm, he had also stepped into the trap which she had set. Numerous people used their lives to put on a show, successfully attracting all of Huang Wuyo's attention. Yiqing Luo had not expected that Huang Wuyo would actually cooperate with her plan. At that time, she was still thinking about how to silently make the people from the realm leave the realm without Huang Wuyo noticing. Huang Wuyo's attempt to destroy the entire realm had given her a perfect excuse. The people from the realm had all left the realm, and the entire realm had become a perfect place to set up an array. Ancient God confining array. Once this array was formed, no matter how strong the cultivator was, he would be sealed in this God confining array. This array was different from the one which Fenggu used to seal Huang Wuyo. Fenggu only made Huang Wuyo fall into a deep sleep. As for the God confining array, while sealing the cultivator, it absorbed all the energy from the cultivator. In the end, the person who was trapped would become an ordinary person, who didn't even have any martial power. An ordinary person, in a boundless and empty God confining array. How long could he survive? Yiqing Luo had never intended to kill Huang Wuyo right from the start. No matter whether she was willing to admit it or not, Huang Wuyo was her father. This was an indisputable fact. She would not kill him personally. She would only let Huang Wuyo be trapped in this ancient God confining array forever. Let him be alone in this endless darkness and boundless God confining array slowly, losing the energy which he was so proud of. Let him repent for all that he had done. Let him redeem himself in his loneliness and despair for all that he had done. Ancient God confining array? When Huang Wuyo heard this array, the expression on his face twisted. His scarlet eyes stared angrily at Yiqing Luo. "You schemed against me? It's too late to realize now." Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled. "This ancient God confining array is specially set up for you. You can forget about escaping from it forever." She suddenly raised her hand and summoned the 4 sacred beasts. The vast and boundless red light instantly enveloped her entire body. She waved her hand. The ancient vast water god relic which her mother had left for her fell off from her body and floated in front of Yiqing Luo. Following the profound light on Yiqing Luo's fingertips brushed past. The 4 sacred beasts gave off a series of beast roars. The sacred beast's energy gathered, and with Yiqing Luo's energy, it linked the 5 vast water god relic together, forming a mysterious totem. A dong sound was heard. The 5 vast water god relic flew towards the brilliant golden light. 2 rays of light merged. The entire realm was covered in a boundless golden color. Rumble, the boundary. No, it should be called the ancient god confining array, started to shake violently. Yiqing Luo glanced at Huang Wuyo indifferently, and when the numerous golden light twisted towards Huang Wuyo's direction, she called back the 4 sacred beasts and turned towards the direction of the entrance. This ancient god confining array was suggested by Guiyu, Ghost Thief, Ghost Doctor, and the rest of the 5 ghosts. It was until they stood out as the main force to set up the god confining array that Yiqing Luo realized that these 5 ghosts were originally the 5 great generals under Feng Gu. After Feng Gu sent Yiqing Luo into the Nirvana realm, he made the 5 ghosts head over to protect her. The ancient god confining array wanted to trap Huang Wuyo, and the most important step to let the array lock onto Huang Wuyo had now been fulfilled. Feng Shi was of the Feng family's bloodline, and was the future successor of Divine Phoenix. Ling Long, Huang Wuyo's bloodline. Huang Wuyo's blood flowed in her body. The blood from their hearts was the primer for this god-confining array. Huang Wuyo this time would definitely fall into the god-confining array, with no way to escape. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to reach the entrance and stretched out her hand towards Yan Xiaoyi, suddenly, a gust of resentment and malevolent yin qi attacked her from behind. Yiqing Luo's expression changed as she speedily opened her glower flame fan to counter that yin qi. She turned around, and what greeted her was Huang Wuyo's malevolent and furious face. His fingers were like a giant eagle as it flew past Yiqing Luo, attempting to head towards the World Group's brothers who were crowding around the entrance with a face filled with worry. Yiqing Luo speedily raised her glower flame fan and split his arm apart. Xiaoyi, all of you retreat first. Yan Xiaoyi's expression changed. The god-confining array is about to be completed. If you don't come out now, you will? I'll go out immediately. All of you go away first. Huang Wuyo's current stance was obviously to drag everyone to be buried together with him. Although the entrance was already sealed by the god-confining array. But it was inevitable that Huang Wuyo would use the forbidden technique to drag the World Group's brothers in. He was taking advantage of her loyalty and loyalty. Attempting to use the World Group's brothers to force her to give up on the god-confining array. Yiqing Luo's gaze turned slightly sharp. Huang Wuyo, stop your futile struggle. You no longer have a chance. Huang Wuyo's current expression was already maniacal as he bore a kind of imposing manner of a broken jar as he spoke in a stern and eerie voice. Chance? You destroyed everything that this seat has, so this seat can also destroy you. This ancient god-confining array was specially set up for him. Since he wasn't able to escape, the Yiqing Luo could forget about getting out. You still have so many people who care about you and value you. If you were to be buried forever in this so-called god-confining array, how much despair would they feel and how sad would they be? Huang Wuyo laughed sinisterly as his face was unable to conceal the malevolence. Yiqing Luo had been paying attention to the entrance of the god-confining array. On seeing that the World Group's brothers had all retreated to a safe position, she silently heaved a sigh of relief. She naturally knew what Huang Wuyo was planning. But she didn't want to follow Huang Wuyo's wishes. After all, she wasn't fighting alone right now. What Huang Wuyo said was right. The minute something happened to her, the brothers outside the array, her loved ones and her lover, how much despair would they feel? Moreover, the child in her stomach had not been born yet. Yiqing Luo's hand gently caressed her stomach as her eyes softened a little. Huang Wuyo, you've already hurt Gur, and now you still want to hurt Gur and your daughter? An enraged voice was heard from outside the array. Immediately following that, inch-by-inch blood-colored eerie bones drilled into the array entrance. Blood-Bone Barbaric King's head appeared on top of those bones. Uncle Bone. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Why did you come in? Blood-Bone Barbaric King didn't reply Yiqing Luo's words but used his eerie blood bones to construct a densely packed city wall, separating Huang Wuyo and Yiqing Luo. He looked at Blood-Bone Barbaric King coldly as he gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, Qing Luo is your and Gur's only fetters in this world. Do you really want to destroy the last bit of relationship between you and Gur? Blood-Bone Barbaric King's sudden intrusion made Huang Wuyo stunned for a moment. The billowing black qi also froze around his body. His ferocious face was extremely terrifying. His eyes were filled with a thick black fog. Blood-Bone Barbaric King slowly moved towards Huang Wuyo. The eerie blood bones gave off a cautious sound. And outside the densely packed Blood-Bone city wall, a piece of blood bone under Yi Qing Luo's eyelids slowly pointed towards the direction of the God-trapping array entrance. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly shook. Uncle Bone's meaning was to let her escape from the God-trapping array first? He would restrain Huang Wuyo? From the moment Blood-Bone Barbaric King pounced into the God-trapping array, she already had an ominous premonition. Blood-Bone Barbaric King obviously wanted to sacrifice himself to seal Huang Wuyo. Yi Qing Luo bit her lower lip tightly as she shook her head towards that piece of blood bone. How could she abandon Blood-Bone Barbaric King at this moment and leave the God-trapping array alone? Once she was trapped in the God-trapping array, it was equivalent to waiting for death. Blood-Bone Barbaric King seemed to understand Yi Qing Luo's intention. Stretching out the blood bone, it directly lifted Yi Qing Luo and sent her to the God-trapping array entrance. Yi Qing Luo, don't even think of leaving this place. Huang Wuyo's enraged roar exploded from within the city walls. Boundless blacking energy expanded rapidly. It almost suppressed the sky full of golden light. The moment the blacking chi expanded, the surrounding Blood-Bone city wall exploded into pieces with a boom. Uncle Bone? Yi Qing Luo's eyes were scarlet red as she shouted for Blood-Bone Barbaric King. The moment the blood bone cracked, Blood-Bone Barbaric King let out a painful groan. Immediately afterwards, the sky full of blood and bones began to close in on itself. Blood-Bone Barbaric King's figure slowly appeared from the broken blood bones. He staggered a few steps and almost couldn't stand steadily. Yi Qing Luo flew forward and supported Blood-Bone Barbaric King. Uncle Bone, are you alright? Blood-Bone Barbaric King grabbed her arm tightly as his face turned pale. Qing Luo, you go out first, I'll stop him. No way. Yi Qing Luo rejected without a second thought. Blood-Bone Barbaric King's grip tightened. Listen to me. He took a deep breath and continued, your mother is no longer in this world. The only reason I'm still alive is to protect you on behalf of your mother. I've already lived for 10,000 years, that's enough. Once I'm sure you're safe, I'll be at ease. Listen to Uncle Bone, leave first and let me complete your mother's last wish. Don't let everyone's hard work go to waste because of me. Yi Qing Luo's pupils kept contracting and expanding. She bit her lower lip tightly as she held Blood-Bone Barbaric King's hand and shook her head at him. Let her watch Blood-Bone Barbaric King meet his death while she used Blood-Bone Barbaric King's life to leave the God-trapping array. She couldn't do it. If you want to leave, let's leave together. Yi Qing Luo raised her slender hand and an enchanting red glow shot out from her fingertips. The Azure Dew 5-piece set converged into a line and connected to the Azure Dew bracelet on her wrist. Majestic, profound energy surged out. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo pulled Blood-Bone Barbaric King and flew towards the entrance of the God-trapping array. You two are really affectionate, but... Qing Luo, have you forgotten that I'm your biological father? Huang Wuyo's cold voice was heard from the side. The surging yin qi had blocked the entrance of the God-trapping array. His entire body was emitting a strong gust of qi. The thick black yin qi was like a whirlpool which kept spinning rapidly. He was obviously sure that he was unable to leave the God-trapping array and was determined to use his last breath to keep Yi Qing Luo in the array. Qing Luo, go. Blood-Bone Barbaric King's face turned pale as he pushed Yi Qing Luo towards the entrance of the God-trapping array and turned around to face the surging black yin qi. The bloody bones that had already been shattered forcefully opened up. Yi Qing Luo was pushed violently and crashed into the black yin qi which was formed by Huang Wuyo's attack. That ball of yin qi blocked the entrance completely. There was a strange chill in the dense black yin energy that accompanied the collision. She shrank back a little. But the black yin qi had no reaction at all. Yi Qing Luo suddenly realized something as her expression changed drastically and she quickly turned back to look at Blood-Bone Barbaric King. Uncle Bone, it's bad. His target is you now. This entrance had long been blocked by Huang Wuyo's yin qi. Yi Qing Luo would not be able to leave the entrance in a short while. And Huang Wuyo had shown that he was determined to keep Yi Qing Luo in the array, but in actual fact he was deliberately trying to disrupt Blood-Bone Barbaric King's cognition. Since Huang Wuyo blocked the entrance, his target was Blood-Bone Barbaric King. He wanted to kill Blood-Bone Barbaric King. Was it because of mother? After Blood-Bone Barbaric King heard Yi Qing Luo's words, there was no change in his expression. Or rather, he had already guessed it. Just like what he said, the reason why he was still alive was because he wanted to protect Yi Qing Luo whom Feng Ge cared about. Otherwise, the moment Feng Ji's soul dissipated, he would have followed closely behind. Now, he only needed to delay Huang Wuyo for a little more time. Yiqing Luo would definitely be able to leave the god-trapping array. Because... Bam! Rumble. A deafening roar caused the entire god-trapping array to shake violently. A powerful and overbearing energy descended from the sky, spreading throughout the entire space. Even the brilliant golden light which was flowing in the array was suppressed by that energy until it dimmed slightly. The next moment, Yiqing Luo's slender waist was locked tightly. An elegant sandalwood scent assailed her nostrils. The familiar smell made her feel at ease. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she raised her head in shock. Ah Xian? It was Ah Xian. He had rushed over. Dmo Xian's purple robe under the brilliant golden light looked like a blooming mandala. That peerless face of his was even more handsome, like that of a god. He held Yiqing Luo's slender waist with one hand and opened up his palm with the other hand. His sleeve fluttered as he released a powerful profound energy, blocking in between Huang Wuyo and blood-boned barbaric king. 3 bursts of powerful energy, almost enough to destroy the heavens and earth. The surging waves were like waves after waves of turbulent tsunamis, causing the entire god-trapping array to show a state of collapse. But being held in Dmo Xian's arms and protected by him, she wasn't affected by that powerful pressure at all. The sky was filled with profound waves. Yiqing Luo saw Huang Wuyo staggered a few steps back. And the profound waves which Dmo Xian had darted towards blood-boned barbaric king in an attempt to protect him were blocked by an invisible force. But blood-boned barbaric king wasn't hurt at all. His face was pale as he pressed on his chest, suppressing the blood gushing up his throat as he trembled to steady his body. His gaze quickly scanned the surroundings as though he was searching for something. And on the other side. So it's my good son-in-law? Huang Wuyo looked at Dmo Xian with a sinister look, his eyes filled with murderous intent. But you're not qualified to snatch someone from my hands. Dmo Xian stood in the air, his purple robe fluttered as he looked at Huang Wuyo indifferently. Really? The person whom I want to protect, you can't snatch her from my hands. Ah. Huang Wuyo gave a burst of arrogant laughter. Do you really think that by imprisoning me here you can win against me? You're just in time. He raised his hand, his withered finger which was only left with bone, pointed at Dmo Xian, trying to imprison me. But I will make the 3 of you accompany me in death. 10,000 years ago, Fenggu couldn't win against me. 10,000 years later, you still can't win against me. Don't even think of leaving this array. Accompany me in death. All of you shall accompany me in death. Following Huang Wuyo's explosive shout, endless dense black yin qi formed a huge net, tightly encircling the entire formation. His eyes were filled with a maniacal smile and hateful murderous intent. If he was going to die, then he would die together with the world. Huang Wuyo's sharp and ruthless gaze was the first to look at blood-boned barbaric king who was standing in a daze. He gave a sinister laugh. Then I'll start with you. He fiercely attacked blood-boned barbaric king. Inside the god-confining array, the 4 forces collided with each other, constantly tearing each other apart. Blood-boned barbaric king was still standing in the same spot without moving. Uncle Bone. Be careful. Yiqing Luo realized that ever since blood-boned barbaric king entered the god-confining array, Huang Wuyo's hostility towards blood-boned barbaric king had deepened. As though if he didn't kill blood-boned barbaric king, he would not be able to get over this hurdle in his heart. His hatred towards blood-boned barbaric king had far exceeded hers. Yiqing Luo wanted to rush forward to save him. But Dmo Xian held her slender waist tightly and said in a deep voice, "He's fine." How could he be fine? Yiqing Luo looked at the blood-boned barbaric king who had just raised his head blankly upon hearing her voice, as she shot her gaze towards her. He had no intention of avoiding Huang Wuyo's attack. How could he be fine? Yiqing Luo gripped her glower flame fan tightly and was about to split Huang Wuyo's attack. But Huang Wuyo's attack was like a hot knife through butter as it went straight down. There was no chance for anyone to react at all. However, Huang Wuyo's attack landed. But it was a lonely attack. There seemed to be an invisible force around blood-boned barbaric king, helping him to block off all the damage. Yiqing Luo's heart was finally at ease. Her fingers which were clutching Dmo Xian's chest loosened slightly. "Ah Xian, when did you make your move?" "It wasn't me." Dmo Xian caressed Yiqing Luo's little head. "It wasn't you?" Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. "Other than you, who else could protect Uncle Bone under Huang Wuyo's attack?" She was stunned as she looked at blood-boned barbaric king. Huang Wuyo didn't expect things to develop in such a way. His ferocious face stiffened slightly. He stared at Blood-Bone Barbaric King intently, as though he wanted to use his eyes to see through Blood-Bone Barbaric King. You. How could you? Huang Wuyo muttered softly. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something as his eyes opened wide. That force earlier is. Gur. Before Huang Wuyo could say anything, Blood-Bone Barbaric King had already stretched out his hand in midair as he muttered a name. Yes, Fenggu. That was Fengji's power. Huang Wuyo's face was steely green as his gaze swept across the surroundings viciously. Fenggu? You're still alive? Where are you? When she heard Huang Wuyo's hoarse howl, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Mother? Hadn't her mother already? When she inherited the God Emperor's power. How could that be possible? Blood-Bone Barbaric King's stretched out hand seemed to be grabbing the air. But slowly, a virtual figure slowly appeared under the golden rays. A slender hand fell into Blood-Bone Barbaric King's palm. Although it was just a virtual figure, but everyone could recognize it. This figure was Fenggu. Blood-Bone Barbaric King grabbed Fengji's hand tightly as the cold expression on his face was no longer there. He looked at the virtual figure in disbelief as his eyes were filled with deep nostalgia. Fenggu gave him a gentle smile. This scene stung Huang Wuyo's eyes. His dark eyes were covered with gloomy qi as he stared angrily. Fenggu. It's you. It's really you? That virtual figure held Blood-Bone Barbaric King's hand as she looked at Huang Wuyo. Even though it was just a virtual figure and the face couldn't be seen clearly. But Huang Wuyo could still see the indifference on that virtual figure's face. That gaze was as though she was looking at a stranger, without any emotions. Huang Wuyo's heart suddenly tightened. Go. Fengji's eyes were calm. That virtual figure seemed as though it would dissipate any time along with the surrounding hurricane. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as her heart tightened. Mother? Hearing Yiqing Luo's voice, Fengji's gaze fell onto her as she gave a gentle and loving smile. It's Mother. It's really Mother. Her soul didn't dissipate. That's Mother's obsession. Dmo Xian caressed Yiqing Luo's head lightly. Perhaps, Mother had already predicted everything today, so she left a strand of obsession to accompany Uncle Bone. It was Mother who protected Uncle Bone. And the meaning of this strand of obsession was to protect Uncle Bone. Hearing Dmo Xian's words, Blood-Bone Barbaric King's face revealed a shocked and incredulous expression. He stared unblinkingly at Fenggu, who was holding his hand, as his eyes were filled with agitation, as though he was about to burst into tears. His hands were trembling as his eyes looked greedily at the person in front of him. His voice was hoarse as he called out in a low voice, Go. And this sentence also fell into Huang Wuyo's ears. Huang Wuyo regained his senses from the shock as his face twisted. Accompany him? Fenggu, have you had a change of heart? Have you fallen in love with him? This question was filled with surging anger. Fengji's expression was cold as she looked at Huang Wuyo indifferently. That pair of chilly eyes didn't contain any emotions. She didn't say a word but only curled her lips, revealing a sarcastic and cold smile. That smirk of sarcasm fell into Huang Wuyo's eyes, making him grit his teeth in anger. He understood. Fenggu was ridiculing him, questioning him if he regretted it because of his ambition. She was ridiculing him, asking him if he had really fallen in love with her and couldn't accept her being with another man. No, he didn't regret it. And he absolutely wouldn't regret it. All he cared about was this woman. Her heart and eyes should be filled with him. Huang Wuyo's emotions were getting more and more furious, almost falling into madness. And at this moment Yiqing Luo, who was staring at Fenggu in a daze, suddenly heard a gentle and loving voice in her mind. Luo, Yiqing Luo's eyes went blank as she clutched Dmo Xian's lapel tightly. Mother? Don't speak, listen to Mother. Fengji's gentle voice was like a warm breeze caressing her face. Yiqing Luo's heart inexplicably surged with an ominous premonition. Fenggu laughed lightly. Luo, the only person who can end this catastrophe is you. Listen to Mother and do as I say. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened as she asked in her heart. Then, Mother, what about you? Mother is originally not a person of this world. You don't have to be too sad, this is Mother's fate. Fengji's voice sounded a little relieved. Finally it's going to end all of this. Her gaze seemed to be on Yiqing Luo's abdomen, filled with love. I didn't expect that I would have the chance to see my daughter become a mother. Fengji's tone became increasingly gentle. Luo, this is the last gift that I, as a grandmother, give to you. following Feng Ji's words. Yiqing Luo only felt a dull feeling in her heart. The next moment, Feng Gu suddenly flew up and rushed towards the direction of Huang Wuyo. Gah! Blood-bone barbaric king's pupils contracted as he screamed. However, Feng Gu hugged Huang Wuyo tightly. A glaring god emperor's power exploded from her body. Huang Wuyo's body, under Feng Ji's forceful restraint, fell into the brilliant golden array abyss. At the same time, Feng Ji's words rang in Yiqing Luo's mind, "Bring them leave." Yiqing Luo clenched her fingers tightly as she took a deep look at the direction where Feng Gu and Huang Wuyo had fallen and raised her head to look at Diamo Xian. "Ah Xian. This is Mother using her last bit of energy to protect you, don't let her down." Diamo Xian sighed softly. Now that Feng Gu was only left with a sliver of obsession, even if they could leave the god-confining array, Feng Gu would not be able to survive in this world. The real Feng Gu was no longer in this world. This was the only chance to seal Huang Wuyo. In the abyss, Huang Wuyo's angry howl was heard. "Feng Gu!" Bam! A deafening explosion was heard. Diamo Xian hooked Yiqing Luo's slender waist. "There's no time to hesitate, let's go." In the array abyss, large swathes of black qi surged out from the seal. With the momentum of lightning and thunder, it swiftly coiled upwards. Diamo Xian hooked Yiqing Luo with one hand and pulled Blood-Bone Barbaric King with the other as they flew out of the god-confining array. At the instance when they left the god-confining array, Yiqing Luo felt a scorching hot sensation from her abdomen. Boundless energy filled her entire body. "Luo, in order to trap Huang Wuyo in the god-confining array, we will need you, the God Emperor, to use the power of the God Emperor to make the final seal. You can do it?" Yiqing Luo raised her head and exchanged glances with Diamo Xian. There was no need for superfluous words. Their hearts were connected. Diamo Xian held her hand tightly as his eyes were gentle and loving. "If you want to do it, I'm here." Yiqing Luo nodded as she pulled his hand over and placed it on her abdomen. "Wait for me." This action made Diamo Xian's pupils shrink abruptly. He looked at his palm in disbelief. The young lady's flat abdomen was emitting a scorching heat. Yiqing Luo smiled at him and immediately closed her eyes as she flew up into the sky, following Feng Ji's lead. The vast aqua divine weapon which had blended with the brilliant golden light, following Yiqing Luo's summon, it quickly twisted and formed a strange totem. The energy from the abdomen lingered around her limbs. A huge light spot seemed to appear in front of Yiqing Luo's eyes. She slowly extended her consciousness into that bolt of light. Boom! A buzzing sound rang in her mind. A glaring and majestic profound energy flew out. Between heaven and earth, all the energy gathered at this instance. The strange totem in the sky, one after another, stacked up and consolidated, forming a huge seal. "It's out." Huang Wuyo's black qi. "Oh no. The god-trapping array is still lacking a little." The surroundings rang with the world group and the other cultivators' cries of alarm. Could it be that all their previous efforts were going to be wasted? Everyone's faces revealed a difficult expression as their hearts were as dead as ashes. They had finally expended a huge amount of energy, sacrificing the entire territory as an array, just to seal Huang Wuyo. They had not expected. In the end he still managed to escape. The swift and violent black qi sped around as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it charged out of the god-trapping array. Just at this moment, the sky full of huge totems instantly gathered together. A loud dong was heard as it heavily smashed onto the entrance of the god-trapping array. It also directly cut off the black qi which Huang Wuyo had drilled out. Diamo Xian waved his sleeves as boundless profound energy gushed out, dispersing that blade of black qi which had drilled out of the god-trapping array. The brilliant golden flowing light and the bewitching red glow intertwined as it encircled the entrance of the god-trapping array, layer after layer, wrapping it up completely. The huge shackles firmly sealed the entire god-trapping array. Gradually, the brilliant golden flowing light and the bewitching red glow faded. The entire huge god-trapping array also slowly concealed itself. It turned into a withered city. Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes as her fingertips swept. A drop of blood seeped out from her finger as it dripped onto the array's eye. A ball of red glow spread throughout the entire array. Once again it concealed itself. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand. The vast water divine armament which was suspended in a line in the sky slowly returned to Yiqing Luo's body. The four sacred beasts also returned to the pet space the moment the array settled as they collectively fell into a deep sleep. Success, success. The god-trapping array has trapped Huang Wuyo? Has it ended? Everything really ended? Everyone at the scene stared blankly at the array in front of them as their emotions surged. A dry and hoarse voice came out from their throats, filled with shock and careful probing, but also with hidden excitement. This battle with Huang Wuyo. It had already caused all the major realms to fall into an abyss of suffering. Finally, it had ended. Yiqing Luo looked deeply at the array as the stone hanging in her heart gradually fell. No matter how strong Huang Wuyo was now, no matter how great his ability was, today it was of no use at all. The god-trapping array made him lose his freedom forever. And the power that her mother left in the god-trapping array was enough to make Huang Wuyo, who had used the forbidden technique to increase his strength, to speed up his disappearance in the god-trapping array. Because the forbidden technique would definitely backfire. This time it was really over. The moment Yiqing Luo retracted her hand, her body, which was standing in the air, staggered slightly. Immediately, as if she had lost all her strength, she fell from the sky. However, Yiqing Luo did not panic, instead she closed her eyes. As expected, she fell into a warm arm. Her arms encircled the other party's waist as she buried her face into his embrace. I knew that you would definitely catch me. You're too reckless. Although Diamo Shen's words were grumbling, but it was indeed filled with deep concern. You're not alone now. Have you ever thought that I would be worried when you act so recklessly? Yiqing Luo's little face stiffened as she widened her eyes and stared at him. Why? Now that you have the little one, you're starting to be fierce to the big one? Tell me, do you love me or your child? Diamo Shen pinched her face as his brows were sincere. His deep eyes were filled with deep affection. I love you, so I love you and my child. Because it was her, so he loved her. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly soared as her eyes curved into a smile. The curtains of the war finally came to an end. The dark clouds dispersed and the sunlight, which symbolized hope, shone on every corner of the various realms. The people from various realms started to rebuild their homes for the future. Because the Earth realm was used as the god-trapping array, Yiqing Luo directly let the people from the Earth realm settle down in the god realm. As for how to maintain the balance between the Earth realm and the god realm, that could only be reformulated later. And just as Yiqing Luo was wearing a phoenix robe and a phoenix crown, standing on the phoenix stage, which symbolized the supremacy of the divine phoenix realm, convening the various realms to make decisions for the future development of the biggest meeting. Diamo Shen was dressed in a gorgeous red robe as he descended from the sky. The gorgeous red complemented his peerlessly handsome face, adding a different kind of charm to it. Yiqing Luo was almost stunned. Diamo Shen's eyes were filled with affection as he swept his sleeves. Flower petals fell from the sky as the entire venue was filled with boundless rippling roses. Under the sea of flowers, Diamo Shen lightly clasped Yiqing Luo's lower jaw as he bowed his head. His voice was low, and in the sea of flowers, it carried a mellow intoxication. It's been so long, I'm already wearing my wedding dress. So, when do you intend to marry me? The man's elegant face was even more dazzling than the sea of flowers. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with a thin mist as she smiled lightly. Now let's get married. End of main text. The author has something to say. This is the first time MOMO has written such a long article and dragged on for such a long time. Now that I've sent it to you, it can be considered as fulfilling everyone's dream. To tell the truth, when she typed the words, end of main text, she had a lot of emotions in her heart and a lot of reluctance. But after waiting for such a long time, she still had to write out the ending. Following that, there were some side chapters, mainly about Diamo Shen and Yiqing Luo's married life as well as the children, and also some plot holes that weren't written in the ending as well as some of the more popular daily CP. But the side chapters wouldn't be too long, she would write it when she was free, so her babies didn't have to keep waiting. Perhaps one day when they thought of it they could come and take a look. Thank you for your company and waiting all this while. And I'm deeply sorry to let down your company and waiting. Really thank you, and sorry. It's you who gave me glory and the courage to stand up. Chapter 53-33. The main city of the God realm was brimming with joy today. From the end of the street to the end, it was hung with bright red silk and plastered with big red happy characters. It added some liveliness to the usually cold and solemn God realm. Tables and tables of sumptuous banquets were set up within 100 miles of the temple. A golden-laid red carpet was also laid all the way to the temple. I didn't expect that I would be able to witness the wedding of the divine phoenix. I heard, the man that our divine phoenix is going to marry is the palace lord of the imperial palace. Imperial palace? the overlord who traversed the realms. A perfect match, a perfect match. Countless people who came to congratulate them couldn't stop praising them. To Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, they were already the saviors in everyone's hearts. No matter how high their profound grades were, no matter how powerful their status was, they were all convinced by this. In the auditorium, the festive drums were played. A pair of newlyweds slowly stepped onto the flower path paved with petals. The young lady was dressed in a robe with petals trailing behind her skirt. She looked like a fairy walking out of the flowers. Step by step, she walked to the front of the man. A slender hand was placed in the man's hand. The man clenched his fists and interlocked his fingers. The man was like a celestial being, peerless in his generation. The young lady was like a phoenix, charming and charming. After bowing to heaven and earth, to the parents, both of them bowed to each other. The red phoenix dress danced in the air. It made the young lady even more charming. The man lifted the veil and kissed her under the cheers of the crowd. Yiqing Luo's arms wrapped tightly around Dmo Xian's neck as she buried her head in his arms. Her tone was soft and sincere, holding your hand, growing old with you, accompanying you for all eternity. This was the promise she gave him. A promise that only belonged to the two of them. Dmo Xian's brows curved slightly as his eyes were filled with tenderness. Among the many congratulatory voices, there was a corner that was extremely quiet. A purple figure stood in the corner, quietly watching the joyous scene. That pair of calm cold eyes was suffused with a faint sadness. After watching for a long time, he suddenly laughed softly. Sure enough, I will never be able to surpass Dmo Xian's position in your heart. The man closed his eyes and tears fell from the corners of his eyes again. Or rather, I've never entered your heart. Just like what Yiqing Luo had said previously. Her heart was very small and could only accommodate Dmo Xian alone. As for him, from the beginning to the end, he was just an insignificant passerby. The man took a deep breath. I'm sorry, I still can't give you my blessing. He turned. His purple sleeves fluttered in the wind, shimmering and luxurious. Wuxin, since you're here, why don't you come in? The girl's clear voice came from behind him. The man stopped in his tracks. He turned around and saw the young girl's enchanting face. Behind her was a man dressed in bridegroom attire. Zhu Wuxin's pupils shrank slightly. He averted his gaze and walked away. Wuxin. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth once again, as her gaze calmly looked at his back view. Zhu Wuxin's footsteps halted once more. Wuxen, that time when we were able to successfully seal Huang Wuyo, it was all thanks to you. Yiqing Luo slowly walked to his side. I know, it was you who helped me. Zhu Wuxin's thin lips pursed slightly. Yiqing Luo continued, actually, the reason why my mother stayed by Uncle Gu's side was because of you. It was you who helped my mother to leave behind an obsession, which allowed me to successfully seal Huang Wuyo in the end. I only divined that only you can solve this matter. Zhu Wuxin finally opened his mouth as his voice was cold. If one listened carefully, one would be able to hear the trembling in his tone. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly, but it's because of you that we can have the peace and tranquility we have now. Zhu Wuxin didn't say another word. Wuxin, really? Thank you. Yiqing Luo lifted the phoenix skirt of her wedding dress as she bowed slightly towards Zhu Wuxin. I represent the upper realm and the other realms. Thank you. Pausing, she straightened her body, and I'm very grateful to you too. Zhu Wuxin's brows sunk slightly. He lifted his feet once again as he walked forward. What he wanted was never her gratitude. What he wanted, she would never be able to give it to him. Zhu Wuxin left in a straightforward and resolute manner. Indistinctly, he heard a young lady's clear and melodious voice shouting behind him, Wuxin, you're my forever friend, and also the godfather of the child in my womb. His body stiffened slightly. But his footsteps were still very resolute. The festive drumming and congratulatory voices were still lingering in his mind. He walked away step by step. But in front of him, that gorgeous young lady dressed in red, whose beauty could cause the downfall of countries, was still clearly floating in front of his eyes. He stopped as he leaned against a big tree and shut his eyes. He covered his eyes with his hand. Not knowing how long had passed. A soft little hand covered his hand. By his ear was an unfamiliar lady's tender voice, Little brother, why are you sitting here alone? You'll fall sick. Zhu Wuxin suddenly opened his eyes. His icy cold eyes shot out like a sharp blade. The lady got a fright as the umbrella in her hand also dropped onto the ground. The wind lifted the veil on the lady's face. A devastatingly beautiful face, reflected into Zhu Wuxin's eyes. That pair of narrow and wavy eyes, was like a net trapping him firmly. This pair of eyes looked like Yiqing Luo. Seemed like her. Zhu Wuxing stretched out his hand absent-mindedly, as he wanted to touch the lady in front of him. But his hand stretched out halfway as it fell down heavily. Yiqing Luo, I'm already unable to escape from your net. If meeting you is my calamity, then I'm willing to be consigned to eternal damnation. Book end. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.